Is higher education politically biased? On the international stage, the answer is clearly yes, although the question still remains unanswered in Australia. Since the early 60s, professors in the United States have conducted research based on thousands of surveys which indicate a sharp shift to the left in American universities, and more recent research has found this swing to be increasing at an accelerated rate. The Carnegie Commission on Higher Education, conducted in 1969, found that political views of faculty members were divided into three separate categories: 45% left, 28% conservative, and 27% sat in the middle of the road. More recently, a study conducted by Rothman and Litcher in 1999, which surveyed more than 1,700 faculty members, found that the ratio of left to right had become 5-1. And in 2007, Simons and Gross found this figure had increased to 8-1 after surveying 927 academic institutions. In the most recent figures published in the Still Divided Academy from 2011, a mere 12% of academic staff in the United States are considered to be Republican or conservative, with some faculties such as anthropology and sociology having ratios as lopsided as 30-1. Even amongst the conservative minority, 51% were pro-choice, 63% supported increased environmental regulation, and 39% believed the government should work to reduce the income gap between the rich and the poor. The study concluded that less than 1 in 10 American professors held political views which could be considered conservative in an economical, political, social, or moral context. Whilst it might appear that students are therefore being politically indoctrinated, as Markson asserted in her 2014 article, it is important to remember that in the marketplace of ideas, conservative academics don't necessarily need to be equally represented to have an impact on the student's education. The problem arises when students may never be exposed to a right-of-centre ideology, particularly in those faculties such as philosophy and sociology, which have extremely lopsided staff ratios. The first part of my research question will therefore investigate any such bias in Australian higher education. Given academia's predominantly leftist slant in the States, we must question what impact this has on the overall quality of students' thinking and education. According to research published by Matthew Wasner of Prager University, students who enter higher education with established worldviews, either liberal or conservative, tend to retain those views throughout university. Right-wing students can usually find pockets of conservatism in social groups and the occasional faculty member, and left-wing students can easily spend 3 or more years at university without exposing themselves to a single conservative ideology. Thus, if the purpose of education is to expose students to challenging and diverse ideas, and to develop their ability to think critically and independently, we are failing left-wing students more so than those on the right on a fundamental level. Students who sit on the right have their opinions and assumptions about the world challenged constantly, and are forced to engage in critical learning, whilst those on the left might not. And those who enter university without a formulated worldview are pushed to the left, purely because that is primarily what they are exposed to. Quantitative surveys will form the basis of my research method, with 2 separate surveys being conducted on staff members and students. Ultimately, I hope to gather enough primary data to assess the extent to which left-leaning academic bias dominates Australian universities, and how, if at all, this affects the overall quality of Australian education.
Created using Powtoon.